Hello, and welcome to Insider Access, new collections, exhibitions, and engagement opportunities with the Art Bridges Foundation. Welcome to our March webinar. My name is Rashida Phillips, and I serve as the Director of Partnerships here at Art Bridges Foundation. So wonderful to have all of you joining us again this afternoon to view our newest initiatives that broaden access to the American art and communities across the country. We have a fantastic program lined up today, starting with a quick overview of Art Bridges, where you'll learn much more about our mission and the resources we provide. Then we'll dive you into some groupings from the Museo del Barrio that are available to borrow through our partner loan network. After that, we'll explore the newest acquisitions to the Art Bridges collection, as well as our very first traveling exhibition featuring works by Emma Stebbins on loan from the Heckscher Museum of Art. And finally, we'll explore how museums can activate these artworks with learning and engagement programming and support. We'll keep an eye on the chat for any questions that come up, so please feel free to drop them there as we go along. I'd like to take a few minutes to share some background about Art Bridges. Our foundation was established in 2017 by Alice Walton, who has always believed in the power of art to transform lives. She recognized that art isn't meant to be hidden in storage. It's meant to be seen, experienced, and engaged with by people everywhere. You may know that Alice founded Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville, Arkansas, an institution that's proved that there's enormous interest in great art beyond our country's major metropolitan centers. By deliberately limiting storage space at Crystal Bridges, she emphasized that art should be out and about in galleries, on display for visitors rather than tucked away. Building on that idea, Art Bridges has created to help museums of all shapes and sizes to view these artworks more broadly, with the goal of ensuring that every community has access to great American art. At its core, Art Bridges' mission is to deliver meaningful experiences with art for personal and community well-being. We do this by partnering with museums nationwide, whether large, small, urban, or rural, to provide support for getting American art out of storage and into local audience communities. We currently collaborate with nearly 270 museums that have supported more than 900 projects that have reached 5.3 million people. These initiatives have taken shape across the country, but it remains our goal to continue expanding into underrepresented regions and communities. Our partners of all shapes and sizes span the U.S. and its territories. We focus on two main pillars. First, art sharing. Second, community engagement. With art sharing, we are dedicated to fostering long-term art sharing partnerships among museums of all sizes to get artworks out of storage and share them with communities nationwide through our various art sharing programs like our partner loan network. With community engagement, we provide funding and resources to create impactful programs around art sharing projects so that visitors and museums can engage in meaningful ways. By the end of today's webinar, we hope that you'll see just how much Art Bridges can help you expand the impact in your museum and enrich the cultural life of your community. I'd like to turn our focus to one of our key art sharing initiatives, the Partner Loan Network, and hear from Dr. Susanna Temkin, Senior Curator at El Museo del Barrio. Susanna holds a PhD from NYU's Institute of Fine Arts. She has organized major exhibitions including Flow States, La Triennial 2024, and previously served at America's Society. Her writings appear in publications such as Alice Neal, People Come First, and Concrete Cuba. Over to you, Susanna.
Thank you, Rashida, and thank you to the entire team at Art Bridges. On behalf of El Museo, we're truly so excited to be joining the Partner Loan Network and excited to share parts of our collection with you all, both virtually today and then through the network itself. For those of you who haven't visited us, welcome to El Museo. We're an institution that was founded in 1969 at the height of the Civil Rights Movement and at the time of important cultural advocacy. Our origins actually resonate from a public school classroom as an artist's idea and have really burgeoned into the location that you're seeing on your screen today at the intersection of Fifth Avenue Museum Mile and East Harlem, El Barrio, Spanish Harlem, which I'll talk about in just a minute. As I mentioned, we come out of very humble origins, but today we have grown to have a really large collection of over 8,000 works that span geographies, chronologies, and we believe is really truly the premier Latinx art collection today. And those origins really inspired our approach to the collection. In 2023, culminating a multi-year project, we presented a project called Something Beautiful, Reframing la Colección, in which we were looking to our collection from a truly interdisciplinary approach. And those groupings are what you'll see inspired for what we're presenting to you all as part of the Partner Loan Network. So first, I'm going to talk to you about our grouping called Making Unmaking, really showcasing two major sculptural assemblages by two visionary artists from the Nuyorican, or I should say the New York-based Puerto Rican cultural movement. On the left, I'm really excited to highlight archaeological find number 22 by Rafael Montañez Ortiz, who very significantly is El Museo's founder. It was really his dream that inspired the development of our museum. We're pairing this work with a self-portrait by Jorge Soto Sanchez. And together, these two pieces, you may notice, they're really salvaged materials taken from the streets, both of uptown and downtown New York City, that really attest to aspects of their makers' identities. Again, in the case of Soto Sanchez, a self-portrait that brings in spirituality. You may notice this axe head relating to Shango, as well as references to the Vietnam War that was taking place when he was making this piece. And in the case of Rafael Montañez Ortiz, this piece, which is really a prime example of his role as a pioneer of the destructivist movement, many people have compared the shape to the island of Puerto Rico, which is really our cultural origins here at El Museo del Barrio. Speaking of El Barrio, another grouping that we're showing through the Partner Loan Network is dedicated to our local community of Spanish Harlem, El Barrio here in New York. We have a photograph by Ruben Natal San Miguel, of course, a barbershop, an iconic location in our neighborhood, also referencing gentrification. At center, one of the most beloved works in El Museo's collection, a piragua, or snow cone cart, that was rescued from the streets of El Barrio in the 1970s and has kind of been reconceptualized within the galleries, thinking about ready-made legacies. And then at right, we're presenting a work by Lucia Hierro, part of her Rack series. Showcasing the bodega favorite snack, the platanitos, which again, a very familiar item to those in El Barrio, but at the same time, Lucia Hierro is really drawing on really deep conceptual strategies related to US American pop, as well as minimalism, a la the racks of Judd. Another grouping we're presenting is called Okama Aracoel. This title is in the Taíno language. The Taínos are the culture that were present in the Caribbean at the time of conquest, but they really remain a vital cultural force, especially for many in the Caribbean diaspora. So this grouping of works, it spans both contemporary practitioners like Glendale's Medina on the left, with some of the women who were part of El Museo's early years in the 1970s, Nitza Tufino and Wanda Quiñones. And through these works, we can see how all three of these artists are really looking to Taíno symbols, Taino iconography, reaching back to ancestral legacies, indigenous histories, and bringing them forth into their own contemporary visions that reflect their own cultural pride, as seen in these relief, painting, and batik works on view. One of the first shows that was presented at El Museo del Barrio was actually dedicated to artesanías or crafts. And something very special to us, I think, as you can see in the diversity of the groupings that we're presenting, we are strong advocates in arguing against art historical hierarchies. We really believe that craft is just as important as painting, sculpture, prints. So this grouping features 3 works by contemporary women makers, each of whom are looking to different craft legacies and using very potent materials. So Consuelo Jimenez Underwood at left, using basketry techniques, but using barbed wire. So a very evocative piece. At center, we have a work by Yvette Mayorga. This, coated pink, very saccharine sweet piece inspired by Rococo aesthetics is also borrowing from the tradition of pasteleria or bakery, icing. And at right, we have a work by Yanira Collado, an artist based in South Florida, who looks to construction, textiles, and quilting techniques to make these reliefs, paintings, portals that really reference these deep crafting traditions. And to follow up on this grouping of 3 women, our grouping Abstraccionistas are all works by 4 women artists, including Evelyn Lopez de Guzman, Carolina Caicedo, Gisela Colon, and artists from the Shipibo culture, all of whom we argue are advocates of different abstract tendencies in a variety of media, from painting in this shaped canvas to Gisela Colon's really technophilic sculptural relief that looks to even satellite technologies to produce these very evocative sculptural works which hang on the wall. I'll also mention Carolina Caicedo is specifically honoring the pioneering role of women artists in her textile piece called Mujeres en Mí, in which she has collected textiles from friends and family, made this monumental quilt, and in it you can see the names of many of the women artists who have inspired her. And this also all goes back to the Shipibo culture vessel. These vessels and these specific patterns are made exclusively by women practitioners. So really advocating for a language of abstraction from a particular perspective. Moving on, I'm sharing 2, again, favorites from El Museo's collection that really span the kind of chronological juxtapositions that we hope to make in this project. We're framing this in terms of the ideas of tropical extraction, really foregrounding the plátano or the banana or plantain in these 2 works, which at first glance look quite similar. At left, we have a work by Francisco Oyer, an artist who traveled from Puerto Rico to France. He was very much in the same circles of artists like Courbet. Works by him are in the Musée d'Orsay, and we're very happy to have this obviously very symbolic, beautiful still life of his in our collection. And at right, a painting of sorts that was actually a commission by Justin Favela. And Justin is someone who, like some of the pieces we've seen before, really uses craft, critiques craft, critiques are both associations with them, high associations, low associations, by making these very, in this case, absolutely true to scale, one-to-one replica of a painting from our collection, Plátanos Amarillos, after Francisco Oller. So two works made, some centuries apart that really speak to one another. And I'm not sure how I'm doing on time. I think for the sake of time, I might just walk us through some of the other groupings that are available so that you all can see them. And I hope you can explore them further online. Pathos, Hope, and Glory, two paintings by Puerto Rican artists of various generations. Figures and Craft Crossroads that again look to different craft techniques and bringing them into, in this case, very highly evocative figurative works. Another companion grouping of works related to Okama Racoel, again, thinking about how contemporary post-war artists were looking back to their ancestral legacies in their own very highly distinct painting practices. Figureheads exploring political imagery in both prints and paintings. And finally, I'll conclude with a piece, with a grouping called En la Calle, in the street, which consists of both films and photo works that speak to protests, artistic movements that take place physically on the streets. So thank you all so much. Again, El Museo is very looking forward to being a part of this Partner Loan Network.
Thank you so much, Susanna. That work is incredible. I think we could spend so much more time looking through it, and it's really wonderful to hear from you a lot of the rich background about them. So these works will be available in our Partner Loan Network, and I'm sure they will go very quickly. So remember to reach out to us if you have any interest in these works. Also to remember to drop any questions or comments into the chat, and we'll take a few moments here and there to answer them whenever possible. Now let's shift gears to explore some of our newest acquisitions in the Art Bridges collection. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Javier Rivero Ramos, Associate Curator at Art Bridges, to walk us through these exciting acquisitions. Javier supports the Art Bridges collection, assists with new acquisitions, and offers curatorial insight into programs across the foundation. He specializes in art of the Americas and leverages his expertise to bolster Art Bridges' glowing and growing collection to provide partner museums with access to artworks that advance our mission. Javier earned his PhD from Princeton University. Take it away, Javier.
Thank you, Rashida. And thank you everyone for joining us today and walking through these incredibly exciting new acquisitions from Art Bridges. So first, something really exciting for our collection. The first work is a 1987 quilt by Faith Ringgold titled Subway Graffiti No. 2. And as we all know, Faith was a lifelong artist, activist, educator, quilter, painter, sculptor, illustrator, author, and as an organization committed to the belief that art is at its most potent when it can empower communities. And with her recent passing, the accession of a work by Faith Ringgold was necessary and even, I would argue, urgent for us. While all her story quilts are to a certain extent autobiographical, Subway Graffiti No. 2 was particularly close to the artist. According to her daughter, author and cultural critic Michelle Wallace, this would have been one of the quilts that Faith hung in her studio and at home. As a lifelong Harlem resident, the subject of the work would also have been close to Faith. The vibrancy, the movement, the dynamism, the palette, they all work together to celebrate and uplift what would otherwise seem like a quotidian or maybe even a trivial subject, people waiting at a subway platform. As Julia Bryan Wilson wrote, no artist in the second half of the 20th century redefined the meaning of artistic labor more than Faith Ringgold. And this work in particular weaves together different mediums literally, to trace the lineage of Black domestic female labor and empowerment. In the background, almost barely discernible, is the name Mary Posey, the name of Faith's mother, who passed on the long tradition of quilting to Faith and who collaborated directly with her in her first story quilts. And by rendering her namesake graffiti, Faith is directly tying together two generations of visual creators in the history of Harlem, and upholds graffiti, which is often maligned, as a meaningful art form, just as she worked to redress the gendered, class, and racialized devaluing of quilting. And so it's an incredibly exciting work for us to have. And I don't think it would be a stretch to say that Faith was a foremother who opened up a path to scores of younger artists, including the work of Stephen Towns, who is the one we'll be seeing next. Similarly to Faith, Stephen works to recuperate a visual history of Black Americans and uses fiber-backed works as a means to render them visible once again. I Will Follow You, My Dear, and Motown, the two works that we've accessioned, belong to a group of works that directly reference the work of photographer Bruce Mozart, a pioneer of underwater photography who documented the segregated beaches of Silver Springs, Florida. Towns reworks the black and white photographs into incredibly beautiful and disarming portraits of Black leisure, recreation, and joy. The works are absolutely filled with the sound of laughter and waves breaking over the beach and fire pits crackling and people swimming, and are quite literally aglow with light. Stephen is a very dedicated researcher, and he goes into great lengths to find and to source the historic fabrics for his quilts, making them incredibly intricate and colorful, and also incorporates iridescent metals and materials into the fibers in order to capture and to reflect light. And these are important because they are also for him a reflection of his own spirituality and religion. And both of these works were part of the recent shows of Stephen's work that were at the Rockwell Museum and Reynolda House Museum in North Carolina. And we are incredibly honored to have them in the collection. And lastly, we have an untitled 1984 mixed media work on paper by Takako Yamaguchi. Yamaguchi is an artist who is or was associated with the pattern and decoration movement of the mid-1970s and early 1980s. And like works by artists associated with pattern and decoration, such as Robert Kushner or Joyce Kosloff, Yamaguchi sought to foreground visual art forms such as patterns and icons from fashion and decoration, which at the time were disregarded by the artistic establishment as overly sentimental, saccharine, and even feminine. However, interestingly, Yamaguchi's unique approach among her peers in the pattern and movement decoration was a syncretic approach, which blended, as we can see very clearly in this work, seemingly generic subject matter with motifs and compositions and iconography drawn from Japanese art history. This work in particular, with its application of oil over bronze leaf, is full of reflective and opalescent surfaces that are also deliberately intervened to create areas of oxidization that make the work seem very organic and even more intricate and detailed. And it's something that this photograph really can do very poorly in reflecting. So these are the works, the latest works that we have accessioned into our collection, and it will be our great pleasure to see them installed in the walls of any of our museum partners. And thank you very much. And back to you, Rashida.
Thanks, Javier. These are such vibrant works. I am particularly excited to see them along with all of us here out and about in the communities. And, you know, growing up with Ringgold and some of the children's books of my youth, it's always a great pleasure to see those works up and close and in person. So thank you again for sharing that with us. Let's now turn our attention to an upcoming traveling exhibition by the artist Emma Stebbins. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Dr. Karli Wurzelbacher from the Heckscher Museum of Art, who will give us an inside look at the captivating show and how your museum can get involved. She has organized over a dozen American art exhibitions, previously served at the Baltimore Museum of Art and the Columbus Museum of Art. published on Courtney M. Leonard, Louise Nevelson, and Jack Whitten, and earned a PhD in art history from the University of Delaware. Thank you for joining us, Karli.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody listening in. I am excited to introduce the Emma Stebbins exhibition, which debuts at the Heckscher Museum of Art this fall, before traveling thanks to our partnership with Art Bridges. This is an ambitious tour, and the Heckscher could not have made it happen without the foundation. While the Bethesda Fountain in New York City Central Park has been a global icon for 150 years, its creator is virtually unknown. As the first ever museum exhibition on the artist, Emma Stebbins' Carving Out History recognizes her as one of the most significant American sculptors of the 19th century and examines the full scope and impact of her prominent transatlantic career. Stebbins spent the first 4 decades of her life in New York City, where she made a name for herself as an artist of crayon portraits. She arrived in Rome as a tourist in 1856 at age 41 and decided to remain there to pursue a career in sculpture. Over the next 13 years, she created innovative marble and bronze sculptures while living with her wife, renowned Shakespearean actress Charlotte Cushman. This exhibition brings together 14 of Stebbins's rare sculptures, many of which will be on public view for the first time in decades, if not a century. As we'll see, her body of work encompasses inventive and incisive interpretations of literary and biblical subjects, unprecedented allegories of American industry, moving portrait busts of friends and family, and path-breaking public monuments. The Heckscher is working with the exhibition designers Pure and Applied to bring Stebbins's story to life. And the show is accompanied by a publication that includes a foreword by Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Tony Kushner, scholarly essays, and reflections by contemporary artists. The exhibition begins by introducing Stebbins's approach to neoclassicism through her sculptures of the Lotus Eater and the related work Autumn. The Lotus Eater is the earliest male nude sculpted by a female American artist. The sculpture is now lost, but the show will include this photograph, as well as 2 related busts of the subject, which was among her most popular works. When Stebbins debuted the Lotus Eater in New York City in 1861, the Times reported that the figure was worshipped daily by many a fair dame and all the critics of the city. These sculptures displayed Stebbins's mastery of human anatomy, and here you can see how stunning Autumn is in the round. They also demonstrated her erudition, including her knowledge of ancient art and of contemporary literature. Neoclassical artists like Stebbins emulated ancient Greek and Roman statuary in an effort to embody universal themes and ideals. The Lotus Eater references an 1832 poem of the same name by Alfred Lord Tennyson, which he based on an episode of Homer's Odyssey. In the texts, travelers who consume the narcotic-like lotus plant lose interest in returning home. Scholars have linked the subject matter to Stebbins's experience as an expatriate and have connected her work to classical imagery of satyrs, of Bacchus, the god of wine, and of Antinous, the historical figure who was the same-sex lover of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. After foregrounding Stebbins's artwork, the exhibition brings together portraits in paint, marble, photography, and print to provide an overview of her biography and the contexts in which she worked. This second section touches on her early artistic study, the roles her siblings and her wife played in her career, and the artistic circle that she was part of in Rome. The show includes this portrait of Stebbins by her painting instructor, Henry Inman, Stebbins's portrait of sculptor Paul Akers, whose studio she studied in, and Stebbins's bust of sculptor John Gibson, who offered her early encouragement. Soon after arriving in Italy, Stebbins met Cushman, who was one of the most famous women in the US and Europe. As Stebbins would later write, quote, from that time, the current of their two lives ran, with rare exceptions, side by side. Cushman herself used the language of marriage to describe their union. Beginning in 1859, their household was a center of expatriate Rome. The two supported each other's careers and helped to sustain other artists, such as sculptor Harriet Hosmer, who lived with them for 5 years in their home at the top of the Spanish Steps. Following Cushman's breast cancer diagnosis, the couple returned to the US in 1870. With the inclusion of Stebbins's posthumous biography of Cushman and Mary Stebbins Garland's scrapbook about her sister's work, this section spotlights networks of female support and legacy building. The third section of the exhibition looks at commerce, industry and commerce, and machinist apprentice to examine the production of marble sculpture in the context of industrialization and its impact on the environment. These 4 works are among the earliest known sculptural representations of American laborers. While still idealized allegorical figures, they depict workers in contemporary clothing rather than in classical drapery or nude. The themes of extraction, global trade, apprenticeship, and mechanization in these works correlate to the creation of marble sculpture, which involved quarrying, training with masters, creating in multiple, and transporting work internationally. Here, the exhibition design will nod to the space of the studio and illuminate the processes of modeling clay, making plaster casts, and carving marble. Throughout the show, and in this section especially, visitors will see 19th century photographs of Stebbins's work. Some of these images document lost marble sculptures, and many show clay studies or plaster models of works that Stebbins never translated into stone or bronze. The 4th section focuses on the 150-year reception history of the Bethesda Fountain. With this work, Stebbins became the first woman to complete a public art commission in New York City. The fountain celebrates the Croton Aqueduct, which brought clean water to the metropolis following the cholera outbreak of the 1830s. Designed during the Civil War, it remains a rare monument to health and healing. The sculpture, of course, cannot be physically present in the show, but we will use the technology of smartphones and augmented reality to bring a 3D full-size scan of the monument to the grounds of the Heckscher and to the other exhibition venues. The gallery space will display 3 versions of the sculpture Samuel, which relate to the allegorical figures of purity, health, temperance, and peace on the fountain's pedestal. It will also feature Stebbins's bust of her brother, who died of cholera, and a related sculpture of the Archangel Sandalphon. This section also examines how the Bethesda Fountain has accrued meaning in relation to its original themes and as a symbol of New York City. The volume of these visual representations of the Bethesda Fountain attests to its enduring power. At the turn of the century, the fountain appeared in stereographs and tourist postcards, cementing its status as an icon of Central Park. Since then, artists including William Merritt Chase, Martha Edelheit, Ricky Flores, and Tony Kushner have made the work a centerpiece of their own production. Tony Kushner's 2-part play, in particular, Angels in America, reanimated the Angel of the Waters as a symbol of hope and commemoration in the context of the HIV/AIDS crisis. The exhibition concludes by placing Stebbins's work in the context of the US Civil War and by contending with its shifting meanings. Visitors will encounter Joseph the Dreamer, which is based on the book of Genesis. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery in Egypt, where he acted on visions, directing him to stockpile grain to sustain the world's population through years of famine. Stebbins's sculpture may allude to the North's use of science and mechanization to manage agricultural productivity, and to the fact that cotton from Egypt was supplanting the crop from the Confederate States. The final section also explores 2 monuments that Stebbins made during the Civil War. This is Horace Mann on the grounds of the Massachusetts State House in Boston, Horace Mann was an abolitionist and was responsible in large part for creating our universal secular public school system, which included championing education for women and girls. Stebbins also created this work of Christopher Columbus, which was donated to Central Park in 1869. Interestingly, the Parks Department has moved the work in and out of storage and displayed it in at least 5 locations, including in downtown Manhattan, which is what you're seeing in the center, and in its present day location, where it moved in the 1970s, which is in downtown Brooklyn, outside of the New York State Supreme Court building, where it has become the subject of debate in recent years. By sharing the long histories of these monuments, the exhibition invites dialogue about who has the power to commission public art, who has the opportunity to create it, and what merits commemoration. Stebbins, a professional sculptor in a female marriage, reimagined what a woman's life could be in the mid-19th century. Her art speaks to some of the most compelling issues of her time and ours, including gender and sexuality, ecology and industry, and political conflict in public art. I hope you'll visit the Heckscher to see the show or catch it on its national tour. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karli. Gosh, such an incredible story and incredible works of art that'll be available for traveling. We're really excited to be able to host this one. Looks like we had a couple of questions in the chat. I just want to acknowledge. Someone is, Danny Volk is asking about Carving Out History, if the book is currently available.
It is not. It is currently being furiously proofread. And it will be available when the show opens at the Heckscher in late September.
Great, thank you. And Jonathan Waltz was curious about the use of wife. So Emma Stebbins did have a wife, correct?
Yeah, so we're using there the language that Cushman herself used. She described their relationship as a marriage to a peer, and also said that she wore the ring on the third finger of her left hand. So we felt that this, it's a little bit provocative to use the word, but at the same time, it is historically accurate and reflects the language that they themselves used. And it's also more concise than saying lifelong, romantic, professional, personal, partner. Their finances were intertwined. They took care of each other during illnesses. They traveled together. They lived together. So also for reasons of ease, it seems to just use the word wife to capture that. And the book will certainly unfold the terminology.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that clarity and understanding. And for any of you others, continue to add any questions or comments in the chat. We'd love to see them. For now, I'd like to introduce Brittany Vernon. She is our Director of Engagement, Awards, and Impact here at Art Bridges. Brittany collaborates with partner institutions to broaden access to American art. With experience in museum engagement and program development, Brittany spearheads projects that deepen community connections, facilitate financial and strategic support, and evaluate outcomes so that the Foundation's initiatives continue to have a lasting and meaningful impact. Take it away, Brittany.
Thank you so much, Rashida. And I just have to say what I loved about everything that we've seen today and heard today is just all the possibilities that there are around these artworks to engage diverse audiences and create access to artworks and artists that might be unfamiliar to audiences across the country. So at Art Bridges, our learning and engagement team funding is really about expanding access to American art, supporting our partners, and developing innovative ways to activate American art and reach new audiences. Our team is made up of former museum educators who collaborate with our partners to design programming. And what we really do, we start with asking you in your museum, what's important to you, what's necessary for your communities, and how can we help you support initiatives that will help you engage them more deeply. We ask you about who you're currently connecting with, who you wish to connect with, and that's really where the conversation starts. Our job is really to encourage you to think about thinking bigger and bolder, and we really like to share our knowledge also of all of our museum partners with you and about what's working and what's not working, to build something that feels collaborative and that will be impactful for your audiences. We fund activities that range from public programming to school-based programming, large-scale one-time events to deep kind of multi-session engagements with audiences and everything in between. Our objectives in doing this work are on the screen, but really what we're looking to do is kind of energize the field with fresh new ideas. We really want to help support you in creative risk-taking. We're hoping to inspire our partners to connect more deeply with their communities in ways they haven't been able to do before, and really champion and support museum educators as they continue to meet the ever-changing demands of this moment that we're in. So with that, I wanted to share a few examples of learning and engagement projects that we funded and give you a sense of what this looks like in practice. So Javier pointed out our new acquisitions, which are typically shorter in duration when they're borrowed by our partner museums. And that really offers an opportunity to be really focused with the programming. So the project that we're highlighting here is from the Delaware Art Museum, and they borrowed our Alger Recorder piece. And what they did was they activated it by planning an artist residency around the piece. So they commissioned a Black choreographer, female choreographer, to work with community members to design this piece of movement that responds to the quarter piece over a series of engagements with community. They worked on the dance and then they performed it live in the gallery and recorded it so that it could be used and viewed by future visitors or people who are interested in seeing what this project was like. And we really loved this project because it was all about engaging with diverse audiences, but really like responding to what audiences were wanting. Delaware was hearing from their audiences that they really wanted opportunities to learn from artists and interact with artists. And so they were able to bring this artist, Dara Meredith, to their community. The next example here is an exhibition, kind of exactly like what Karli just highlighted for us. An exhibition, traveling exhibitions are usually 6 months minimum in duration. So that offers us a little bit more time to deeply engage with a specific audience in a series of programming that maybe leads to like a bigger one-time event. Like this project we're highlighting here was an Andy Warhol exhibition at Peoria Riverfront Museum. And this museum really was hoping to engage with high school and college students. And so they planned a series of fashion design workshops with students that culminated in this fashion show that was inspired by Andy Warhol animal prints, which was really exciting. And the fun thing about this project is it was the first time that Peoria Riverfront Museum had ever done something like this. And they still get asked by their audiences to do this again, to highlight, to have a fashion show related to future exhibitions. And so that's something that they're hoping to do, and they can definitely do with Art Bridges support. The last example I'll just share with you here is a Partner Loan Network project, like Susanna highlighted. These are really special projects because they offer an opportunity for really deep, expansive engagement with audiences. Partner Loan Network groupings are usually in place at a venue for 2 years. And so this gives you an opportunity to kind of experiment and iterate on programs within the same project, within the same funding. And so this project was at Ackland Art Museum, and what they did is they wanted to really engage the staff at the university. They hadn't really developed programming for staff members to participate in, and so they started out by planning in-person artist workshops and talks. And then kind of halfway through the project period, they realized that these were being underutilized by the audiences that they intended them to be for. And after getting some feedback from staff members on campus, they realized that the times that they were offering these programs just didn't align with the working professional schedules. And so they ended up switching gears here with their project and offered on-demand like recordings of these artist workshops and talks so that working professionals, the university staff and students could access them on their own time when they had the time to be able to experience these activities. So this project also highlighted some creative marketing where the university promoted the activity through their internal employee websites so that people would understand what was being offered and when it was being offered and how to access these on-demand videos that they could use for their own engagement and learning with this grouping of artworks from Crystal Bridges. Each of these projects were supported in the range of $10,000 to $50,000, depending on the scope and scale of the projects. And some non-exhaustive examples of the types of funding that we provide are on the screen here for you to reference. But we fund so many elements of making these projects come together. So when you decide to work with us, we want to hear from you about the things that are necessary for you to do the great work so that we can help realize those dreams for you. The last thing that I want to leave you with is an orientation to our online idea center. So this is a space where we highlight the innovative programs completed by our partners. You can scroll through and read about the impact of these programs. You can download resources related to them that were created by the partner museums themselves. And you can connect with us to learn more about these programs if you decide you want to try any element of this at your museum. So I hope you can check it out. Thank you for joining us today. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Brittany. I think this is some of our favorite work and part of the process here, that we not only get a chance to work with partners on bringing these artworks to their spaces, but really enliven them in and within community. So really exciting to see learning and engagement activate those sorts of opportunities. And again, if you've got any questions or excitement around what we do here, please put some chat information in there, or we will contact you afterwards as well. Speaking of chat, I do see there's some questions coming through, so let me shift here a bit and see. For El Museo, there's a group here that's interested in specific works, but not all of the works in the groupings. Can that be discussed as well? They're asking for a show that they're curating. Javier, do you want to take that one?
Sure, absolutely. Currently, we are requesting that the borrowers of the groupings from the Partner Loan Network do keep all works on the grouping on display. We have purposefully made these groupings small and thematically linked in order for them to be displayed at a single institution. That being said, the works do not need to be hung together. So while some can participate in one part of an exhibition, another part of the grouping can be on display at the institution elsewhere.
Great. There's a question here about the Idea Center. They were really excited about what you're sharing, Brittany. Where can they find more information about that online?
Yes, I believe Tucker just put that into the chat for everybody to click on. We are still adding projects and programs to that, so expect it to be refreshed really soon. But there is a great example of lots of different types of projects from different sizes and regions of museums as well.
Great. Karli, there's a question here for you. What sort of community programs or in-gallery interpretive touch points are you considering or excited about for the exhibition?
Thank you for the question. I think as we're hearing, like, this could go in so many different directions, and there's an answer for what we'll do at the Heckscher. And then I think as the show travels, we're excited to talk with the staff at each of the venues, but also to work with Art Bridges to talk about that. At the Heckscher, we have 2 community advisory groups who are weighing in on the show. We also have an accessibility advisory group. A sculpture show offers some interesting things. So we're talking about, 3D printing a scale model of a sculpture that everyone can touch, since we will not be touching the marbles on loan. And then, of course, I myself was learning about the processes of making a neoclassical marble sculpture, and that Stebbins and Hosmer and others started with modeling clay, and then those would be translated into plaster and then carved in marble. And that was a workshop model. There were many hands involved in the making of these. So also getting hands-on with modeling and even kind of hacking away at a block of marble, perhaps. And then all of the literary allusions, the poetry and Homer's Odyssey, the myths, the ancient Roman art that's being referenced. I mean, it's just very rich and very interdisciplinary. So it can go in all sorts of ways.
Great. There's another question here about the gallery square footage that's needed for the exhibition.
Sure. So at the Heckscher, we are about 3,000 square feet. We're a small museum, and this museum will fill our entire space. Because it's sculpture, there's some flexibility. We are going to show many of the sculptures in the round. If you have a smaller space, you could condense. If you have a bigger space, you can spread out even more. So it is flexible in a way that it is less about linear square footage, more about, how much space you want around each work.
Great. For those who are interested in lending to the Partner Loan Network, Susanna and Javier, I'd love for you to just chat about your experience working with each other, how you decided upon these works, and just a little bit more about the process.
Yeah, well, happy to start to say one, it was such a pleasure to collaborate with the Art Bridges team. In the case of El Museo, as I mentioned at the beginning, we had just concluded really a major collections evaluation, the most comprehensive research that had been done at El Museo, exclusively dedicated to our collection in more than 20 years. So from our side, I think we were really ready with the research to be able to share it with others. And then in collaboration with Art Bridges, with Javier and others on the team, we were really able to hopefully produce groupings that will be enticing to be shown all across the country. There was some back and forth, and I think that was really productive for us as we thought, in terms of media. Again, I think as the previous question mentioned, these are sort of intended to be long-term displays. So thinking about works on paper, photographs, contingency plans, things that we might be able to shift over the course of an exhibition. So we are proposing some prints that we have, multiple examples of similar iconography. So it was, I will say, like a very collaborative process that was really fun actually to do together.
Yes, it has been a real thrill working with such a collection. And maybe I'll just add to what Susanna is saying by emphasizing how flexibility really is the centerpiece of the Partner to Loan network. The program is designed in order to be for the partners to be as involved or as little involved as they want and as their capacity allows. So in the case of this collection from Museo del Barrio, as Susanna was just mentioning, these are groupings that are coming from a survey exhibition that is very recent, and so the scholarship is very fresh, and we have strong ideas of how to group the works and how the works can be displayed. But there's also other cases within the Partner to Loan network of institutions that whose staff is not able to participate to that extent in the process. So it really depends on what the level of involvement on the part of the lender really wants to be. The point is that we are trying at Art Bridges to basically take on all the logistic and all of the work and all the financial cost of lending these works. And so just to emphasize and to reiterate that it really is partner specific, and we really are here to be facilitators. And so with each partner, we will work in order to make sure that the program is not a burden on your staffs.
Thank you both for illuminating more of that process. I think for folks who are interested in kind of the length of these particular opportunities, they range. There's, if you want to do traveling exhibitions, we like to do 6 months rotations. And so that's always helpful, as Brittany mentioned, to give some time to community to interact with that exhibition. For the Partner Loan Network, it tends to be 2 years. So Javier, since you're speaking of that, why 2 years? Why such a long time?
Well, I mean, you guys might gather from my somewhat undignified background that I am currently traveling, and I'm actually in Chattanooga visiting with our partners of the Heckscher Museum of Art, who actually are taking or took some works and are displaying them from the Philadelphia Academy of Fine Arts. And I think that they have an incredibly powerful rehang of their own collection, where they were able to bring in one of our works, a David C. Driscoll work, and then pair that together with a couple of portraits by Cecilia Bow. And by rehanging all of this in their historic mansion, they really are kind of challenging art historical narratives, and it's an incredibly powerful display. And having the works there for 2 years will allow them to actually rotate the works around their galleries, and will allow them to essentially use the works as catalysts for more transformative programming as well. I think that that's a very important part of it. I think we recognize, as Brittany has mentioned, that one of our other pillars is community engagement, and so we want to make sure that that the works are going to be on display for long enough for our borrowers to be able to come up with innovative and transformative public programming around the works. So this is one of the ways in which we try to deliver on that objective.
Great. Brittany, Javier obviously mentioned the opportunity to do a little bit more learning engagement in those long-term partnerships. Can you talk a little bit more about what that maybe looks like on the evaluation side, or what we're learning from visitors and that opportunity for long-term partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other areas that we help our partner or support our partners with is audience evaluation. And we do that through COVES, which is the Collaboration for Ongoing Visitor Experience Studies. It's a survey that somebody would administer at the exit of your museum. And as visitors are taking the survey, they're answering questions about their demographic information, about their experience at your museum. One of the things that we're finding is that one of the #1 reasons people are coming to museums is just for social interaction, to spend time with someone else, just to have a social moment. And that completely kind of upends the idea that people are coming to museums to see something new all the time and to see an exhibition that change every 6 months. It's not to say that the exhibitions and the art don't matter, but the experiences that people are having and the ability to connect with other people is one of the more highly rated reasons why they're coming. And so having an exhibition on view for 2 years kind of helps meet that need for people, and it also kind of lowers the burden for museums to feel like they need to constantly be on this hamster wheel of doing something new all the time.
Great, thank you. Hopefully in a future webinar, we'll talk a little bit more about evaluation too. I think for those who might be more interested in that program, but of course, any of our programs and services you can find on our website, and we'll be happy to work with you to explore. I want to go back a little bit to some of the facility questions that was asked earlier about the square footage. Just wanting folks to know that usually facility requirements to borrow, we'll work with you on. And so we usually ask you to submit a facility report with about 12 months of climate readings. And then our team will review that based on a specific grouping request. Obviously, it depends on the types of artworks that you're requesting in your space. And then for those who want to share a collection to the Partner Loan Network, you can find much of that information on our website about funding and project scope, but always, reach out to us, because we're happy to have those conversations and connect you with the teams that really help shepherd that process along. It's been such an honor to have you, Dr. Karli and Dr. Susanna, to join us to really share these wonderful and unique opportunities to just bring your collections out and about throughout communities nationwide. We at Art Bridges continue to really find joy in working with all sorts of partners, and you're just 2 examples of really great partners that really open up these conversations with community and these artworks with communities too, that it's our pleasure to help work alongside with you. I just want to say special thank you too to Javier and to Brittany, wonderful colleagues here that also help support this process along the learning and engagement side, as well as our curatorial side. These are just 2 colleagues out of many colleagues here that help make some of the magic happen here at Art Bridges Foundation. I just want to point to you that we will follow up with emails for those who put that in the chat. We look forward to hearing your feedback on our offering and webinar today. And we'll send you some communication after the webinar again to gather some more opportunities for comments and questions. Thank you so much for joining us today for our March webinar. We really look forward to seeing you at our next webinar, and we want you to have a great day. Thank you all for joining. Bye.